Hey everybody, welcome to Obscure Minds. I'm Jess and I'm here with Nix.
Hello.
Today I'm going to cover the dark, untold truth behind the man who inspired the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's an interesting and oh so disturbing story. The sad truth is it didn't happen in Texas and there were no chainsaws involved. The director of the original movie had relatives that lived 20 miles from where the inspiration was, and all the heinous crimes had been committed. He said it was a story that haunted him since his childhood. Ed Gein was known as the Butcher of Plainfield and the Plainfield Ghoul. He's also been an inspiration for the films such as The Silence of the Lambs and Psycho. So I'm going to start from the beginning to give a little bit of context to let you decide just how disturbing you find all of this. The particular topics in this may be triggering to some. So, who is Ed Gein? So, he had an alcoholic father named George and an ultra religious mother named Augusta, and an older brother named Henry. And it was said that his mother frequently preached to her sons about an innate immortality of the world and the evil of drinking, and her belief that all women, apart from herself, were naturally promiscuous and instruments of the devil.
Just
Yeah,
women in general or
all women other than herself. So
oh, so
she
she's excluded. She's
she
good.
was totally fine, but everybody else was from the devil.
Yeah.
So she reserved time every afternoon to read to them from the Bible, usually selecting verses from the Old Testament and the revelation concerning death, murder, and divine retribution. So I find this like an interesting and like pivotal piece of information in his abnormal upbringing. Like it's a little extreme for children.
Yeah.
Um
Wait,
so the
how old
fan
was he?
um this started at a young age. I mean, like all the way up from like as soon as he was young, all the way up until he was an adult. Like she was an ultra religious
Wow.
mother teaching him all these things.
Those things. Wow. Okay.
All these things. Yeah, him and his brother. So the family was pretty dysfunctional to say the least. Um a lot of families are, but I'd say this was top tier for sure. In the sense that Augusta, the mother, hated her husband, George, because he had a hard time holding down a job due to his alcoholism. But they were able to settle down in a small town of Plainsfield, Wisconsin. Both sons were completely isolated, other than being able to attend school. Ed Gein was shy, and the classmates and teachers remembered him having like strange mannerisms and like such as like seemingly like random laughter, as if he was like laughing at his own personal jokes. Unfortunately, his mother would punish him anytime he would try to make friends, which ultimately led him to having like poor social developmental skills, which is like really sad if you think about it. He was already super secluded as well as his brother,
Yeah.
and he had a really rough childhood. So
Well, it
fast
sounds like
forward,
he doesn't have like the programs and the help that we have nowadays for children who are like that. That is very
ex-
sad. Okay,
and it's
continue.
yeah,
Sorry.
no worries. So fast forward a little bit to Ed Gein's father dying at the age of 66 of a heart failure due to his alcoholism in April of 1940. The two Gein brothers had a rocky relationship with one another, as like Henry worried about his brother having like an abnormal attachment to his mother, as he often spoke ill of his mother around Ed, and that often made him very upset. In May of 1944, Ed started a vegetation fire on their property that got out of control, and his brother Henry went missing. And Ed called the authorities to help him look, and they found Henry, whose dead body was found lying face down. Apparently, he had been dead for some time, and it appeared that the cause of death was heart failure, since he had not been burned or injured otherwise. But it was later reported that the bruising on his head was apparently no big deal because the police dismissed the possibility of foul play, and it was written as asphyxiation on the death certificate. So then, shortly after his brother's death, his mother had a stroke, and he took care of her for a little bit, and then she died of a second stroke in 1945. And he states that the loss that he lost his only friend and one true love, and he was absolutely alone in the world.
Yikes. Yikes.
Yes.
Sorry. That's a red flag.
Very red flag. He definitely had some mommy issues for sure.
That Norman Bates vibes.
Yes, and you know what's super funny? Norman Bates actually said that there was, so when I met Norman
What?
Bates, we're cutting this part out though. Norman Bates, super funny. How I was actually going to put this in, but when I met him last night, he's like, "There's nothing like, really, the love for a mother between a mother and a son." He said that to me last night when I was with Caden.
Like the actor?
The actor, and I was like, that's so weird you mentioned Norman Bates, because he said that shit to me last night. That's super fucking weird.
Well, first of all, that's part of his character. It's what they're supposed
Yeah.
to do. And second of all, why can't I leave this in? That's perfect. That's funny because people are grasping the concept of like these characters, and obviously there's something that's going on.
Well, yeah, and that's why he was thought of for the role of Psycho. So like this whole thing, super crazy. Yeah. So
can I ask a
yes. Do with
so
do with that information what you will, but like yes.
Yeah, that's very strange. Okay, so the brother. I feel like I want to rewind a little bit.
Yeah.
The brother dying. So literally like, oh, there's some bruising, but we're good. We could just move on. That's literally what happened.
Literally what happened. No one even like thought, well, there was some questioning that was done, but like they really literally shrugged it off like, oh, no foul play was done. I thought that was really weird. There was no autopsy report ever done on the body, too. That was a big red flag as well. I'm not sure why. Maybe the mom didn't want it, or maybe she had some suspicions as well. I just know that.
How old was the brother?
He was, I want to say he was in his
even just around age,
like 30s or 40s, maybe.
Okay.
That's a ballpark figure.
I only ask because of the heart failure, and if he was like in his teens, heart failure, and I'd be like, But
well, heart failure was the dad. The heart failure was the dad. So wait, no, that was the brother too.
Yeah. It was both of them?
Yeah, so the heart failure was due to alcoholism for the dad, and then the brother, they stemmed it as heart failure as well because there was
it's poison.
Maybe.
It was poison. Sorry. Okay, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, so both of them were actually heart failure because there was no like, which I think is really odd because how are you going to find bruising on the head later on and then not question that? I don't know. Super weird.
That's very weird.
Yes. So this is where Ed Gein is left all alone for his reign of terror to start. He now doesn't have a father, doesn't have a mother, and doesn't have a brother. And he's left alone on the family's property to literally wreak havoc. So this is what we know. He only like murdered 2 people. There was only 2 confirmed murders. And that is where all of the information I'm going to share with you is very horrific, just FYI. Okay. So if you're ready for this.
Brother died, mom died, child is starting to go crazy, right?
Okay. So everyone's dead and he's left with his own thoughts. And so confirmed deaths are 2 women. And I'm going to kind of give like a story, a picture, like of what happened. And this is where it gets gross. So if you're sensitive to this information, I am sorry. However, this is the depiction of what is real and
Yeah, the
unfortunately
true
true
story. Yeah.
of this like person. He is not a character. He was a real life person who inspired this movie. So, on the morning of November 16th of 1957, 58-year-old Plainsfield hardware store owner Bernice Warden disappeared. So she was one of the first people to succumb victim of Gein. And he basically, um, this became like the red flag because the store owner's like son got involved and all this other stuff. I'm going to cut to the chase with this one. So it became a red flag, and he had come back to the store and was arrested because he had bought like a gallon of antifreeze. Sorry. And there was like, paper slips and like receipts for this. So they were like, that's a little suspicious. He was the only one in this store since the last time she went missing, so we're gonna check this guy out. So they
Okay, real quick.
arrested him.
I have to say something. Wouldn't that
Yes.
be crazy if like you have nothing to do with the crime, but you were the last person that was in that store and they're like, "Jessica, you bought 2 gallons of milk." A gallon of milk.
Well, you have to
store.
well, you have to think of it. It was back in the like 50s. They don't have any
Yeah.
like camera equipment. They can't really see anything. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like for good suspicion, they arrested him. So
As
he
they
was
should.
arrested. Right. They arrested him and they searched the farm, the Gein farm. And this is where it gets crazy. So the sheriff's deputy discovered this poor woman, Bernice Warden's decapitated body in a shed of Gein's property. She was hung upside down by her legs with a crossbar at her ankles and ropes at her wrists. Her torso was dressed out like a deer. She had been shot with a 22 caliber rifle, and ugh, the mutilations were made after her death. Searching the house, authorities found, and this is a long list, but I think it's like really important that we understand like the real and like disgusting facts of what made the character of the movie, what it is. So
Yeah.
it was, let's get into this. So, whole human bones and fragments, a wastebasket made of human skin covering several chair seats, skulls on his bedposts, female skulls made with tops sawn off, bowls made from human skulls, a
I know that
corset
would.
made, yeah, a corset made from a female torso skin from shoulders to waist, leggings made from human leg skin. Oh my god. Masks made from skin of female heads, Mary Hogan's face mask in a paper bag, and Mary Hogan was the second victim. It didn't really go into too much detail about how she became the second victim, but she was the second victim that was known because they found her body parts and they ID'd her. So let me continue this lovely list. Mary
Okay.
Hogan's skull in a box, Bernice Warden's entire head in a burlap sack, Bernice Warden's heart in a plastic bag in front of Gein's potbelly stove, 9 valve in a shoebox, valve? Don't know how to pronounce.
Vulva.
Is it vulva?
Vulva.
Ew.
Oh my god.
Okay, it's worse.
So bad. Ow. Immediately my legs. Oh, no. No.
My bad. Even worse. A young girl's dress and the vulvas of two females judged to have been about 15 years old. Oh my god. Oh, Jesus. A belt
Okay.
made from female human nipples.
Oh, the nipple belt. I knew about that
Nipple
one.
belt. Four noses. Okay, I'm almost done real quick. A pair of lips on a window shade drawstring. A lampshade made from the skin of a human face. Fingernails from female fingers. And if you can't tell, there is a huge theme here. They're
Female.
all female.
Yeah.
And I'll get into why.
Okay, but I real quick before you get into all that, just quick question. So
Yes.
it sounds like there's a lot more parts
Mm-hmm.
than his two victims. So how are they only saying two victims?
Well, our lovely friend Gein is actually admitted to stealing from 9 graves and led investigators to their location. So he was into
Grave
dead
robbing.
bodies. Yeah.
What is that called? Necrophiliac.
Necrophiliac. He was a necrophiliac. He went
Oh my God.
and he literally told investigators that between 1947 and 1952 that he had made as many as 40 nocturnal visits to 3 local graveyards to exhume like buried bodies while he was in a daze-like state. And about 30 of those visits, he said that he came out of the daze while he was in the cemetery and then left the grave and like left and returned home empty-handed. So he literally went and like was looking for buried middle-aged women that he thought resembled his mother, and then he took those bodies home and then he tanned their skins to make his like paraphernalia for his house.
Okay, but by what you just said, when he was in a daze-like state, it sounds like from the get-go, he was trying to work on his insanity plea.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Because at the end of everything, he that's a really good point. And I think that that's something that like we'll cover in another segment of our podcast in the psychology of all of it. And talk about, you know, the psychology behind just how this even happens. Like this is a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
A lot.
All I gotta say is cremate me. I do not want to be buried. I do not want to become part of a nipple belt. I'm sorry.
Sprinkle me somewhere, please, because like, I do not want to be like someone's lampshade or their couch. Please do not wear me. Never. Never. Yeah. So there's just reports of, you know, all these things that he did with these dead bodies, which is kind of sad when you think about it. Like how many people he disturbed and their families that he like.
It's very sad.
You know? Yeah. Can you think like about all the people he like really upset in doing all of this? It's just, it's horrifying.
Disgusting.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's interesting, but it's also so deeply disturbing that was like a real person walking among us that thought like that behaved like that got away with that.
Yeah.
And he was the one who inspired multiple of our horror films for good reason. You know?
Yeah.
And he did plead insanity, and they did deem him insane, and he did spend the rest of his life in a mental institution.
Hmm. But is he really, though? Is he really?
Um, I think I think yes and no. I think
Yeah.
his upbringing was very extreme. I think he had a really bad trauma bond with his mom. I think
But
it's
isn't
something we can unpack.
insanity? Yeah.
Um,
But insanity is like to go along with the insanity plea is to that you weren't in your right mind when you're committing these acts. You had no idea what you were doing, the repercussions of your actions, and it seems like he knew exactly what he was doing. He knew exactly what he wanted to make. He knew exactly what he was going for. And he even had the right mind to be able to say, well, I was in a daze. So, I mean,
a
sometimes
lot
when I
of
woke
yeah,
up, I
I think a
didn't
lot
come
of
back
it
to
was
bed again.
premeditated, and if it's premeditated, you can't really claim insanity. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in that sense, I don't think that it should have been insanity. I think that he has a lot wrong with him. I do think that he, has, a lot of mental illness. Sorry. Okay. Let's try to wrap this up real quick. Okay. So he was diagnosed with schizophrenia and found mentally incompetent. So they said he was unfit for trial. So he is sent to a state hospital for the criminally insane, in a maximum security facility, and later transferred to a state hospital. And ultimately, like, long story short, he ended up dying in a mental institution. And
Yeah.
like, a psychiatrist testified that Gein had told him that he didn't know whether the killing of Warden, the first woman, I believe it was the first woman, yeah, the first woman, was an accident or not, because he didn't know if, like, the state that he was in, like, if he was coherent or not, which I find kind of suspicious. How do you not know? Or I don't know. I know that people get into psychosis and not remember
Yeah.
things, and that's a proven thing. Um, but to
But
not
I
be
don't believe
sure,
he was. Yeah.
yeah, that's a little iffy in my opinion. Um, so I think that his childhood for sure screwed him up. His mom um skewed his thoughts of women and her ultra religious behavior, and how he grew up at home between having an alcoholic father and just the way that she kept her kids in a box and everything like that, like, caused severe trauma. Maybe not to the point to skin people and, like, grave rob. So I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I mean, I think I've already said it that I feel like he definitely was not insane. I mean, insane in different terms, yes, but insane to the point where he didn't know what he was doing, no. Do I think that his mom did like what's that word? A reputable damage?
Mm-hmm.
100%. I feel like, I mean, don't even get me started about the whole religion thing, but when it's something like that, and I mean, I guess there's a reason, like the way my mind goes is there's a reason why there's ratings on movies and books for a reason that your child or under a certain age shouldn't be watching certain things or reading certain things, right?
Right.
So when it comes to the Bible, these things that she was reading him, if she was reading from those specific things you were talking about when he was at such a young age, it's the same thing. Some of that stuff is pretty gnarly
Yeah.
to read to a child. That's why they have
Yeah,
children Bibles.
because it's instilling fear in a child, and children's brains can only develop at such a certain pace. And so
Yeah.
if you're overloading them with something that's too mature for their age, it does huge damage more than it does help them, and they don't know how to process it. And so it like almost warps their brain more than it helps them. So that's why they
Yeah,
have
it's
those
too
mature
much.
ratings. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, she did so much damage to her children by the way that like shoved that kind of information down their throat, especially those topics like murder and all those type of things. It's almost like she was like setting her kids up for failure.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that she turned her son into a monster, but she definitely put him on the path to it.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry, but
I can agree with that.
mhm.
That's I mean, I don't know where you make the leap from having a religiously strict crazy mother to nipple belts. But
No, I think we all have our own type of demons, like no matter which way you believe or which way you think, we all have our own demons no matter what way we grow up. It's like our own way of thinking and how we see the world and our perception. And a lot of that was on him. At the end of the day,
yeah,
that was on him, and if after everything, schizophrenia was the only thing that really he was diagnosed with
yeah,
after all of the things that he did. That's wild to me.
yeah, that is kind of crazy. Hmm.
You know?
So in terms of like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and this being an inspiration for it, was it just because the person who wrote the movie, the director or whoever he was, his family lived 20 miles from there, or what was the connection there?
Yeah, I think that that's a big thing. And like at the time that the movie came out in the 70s, this was a huge, like, a case that, was one of the bigger ones that had happened in the 50s or the 40s. So this was one of the bigger, most like gruesome things. So I think that it inspired, like I said, a lot of different, movies out there like Psycho and American Horror Story, not American Horror Stories. What was the other one? Silence of the Lambs, my bad. And
Yeah.
so it I guess like
Well,
it's
you're not
triggering.
wrong though.
Well,
American
American
Horror
Horror
Story,
Stories too, yeah.
they
Had a
had a little
segment.
segment.
Yeah.
They did the whole entire movie, and then this guy popped up, and you're like, "That's who it is. I know who that is." Yeah,
Yeah. So I wasn't wrong. But I didn't actually see that part. I think you were the one who told me about something. But yeah, so I think like it's such a gross, grotesque story, like true life story. I think it just kind of like sparked an interest. What I find so interesting is like that, like the movie wasn't anything like, I mean, it was kind of similar, but it wasn't, like there wasn't the chainsaws. It wasn't in Texas. It's more of like a slasher film. And like, I know those were like super popular back in like
they
the
were
70s and the 80s. So had they portrayed him as like the person that he really was, I think it would have been like way more scary.
way scarier.
Like,
Way scarier.
I don't know. It definitely
Yeah.
freaked me out knowing that, like, I don't know. I don't know many grave robber stories. Do you know of anybody who like was into like dead bodies?
Um.
Like off the top of your
Yeah.
head?
Not off the top of my head, but yeah, I mean, I feel like when I listen to or I do research on a lot of serial killers or killers in general, maybe not that don't kill three or more people to qualify as serial killers, they always start somewhere. And so I
Mm-hmm.
feel like certain killers start with the fascination with a dead body. And so they always start somewhere, whether it's somebody that's already dead or going and digging up graves. And then you always hear, yeah, he was kind of weird. We would find him like digging up graves and stuff. And it's like, kind of? That's very weird. So I have,
Yeah.
right? But I have heard about a couple of people who started somewhere and kept going. And it sounds like the Ed Gein, if he wasn't caught, that he would have kept going. He knew what he wanted to do. It was very clear that, I mean, he needed more furniture or something, more
He
clothing.
had a skin theme going on in his house, and he was just, I would not want him as my home interior decorator for sure. That is not my style.
My
And
home
like,
is
ugh.
postmodern. What's the theme of your home? Human skin. It's so bad.
I don't know, like his thing too though, like also they talked about how he would wear the women, which I don't know if I talked about that, but he would wear
No.
the skin of these like women that
Ooh,
I
I
don't know
have a
if
theory. I have a
yes, what
theory
is
about that.
yes.
Okay. So, when your loved one passes,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people, and what I would do is I would keep their clothing and I wouldn't wash it. And I would wear their clothing or lay with their clothing or something like that. So, he was basically obsessed with his mother. What if that was his twisted way of like, I'm going to wear her shirt? He's like, I'm going to find women that remind me of my mom and I'm just going to wear them.
It kind
So
of
bad.
like this is super off topic and like I don't even know, but like my brain is going there, my ADHD brain is going there. But
Yeah.
like it's kind of like how his mom didn't want him to have any love or like see any women in any type of light better than her, right? So like she would talk about other women in such a vile way, right? And then like put
Okay.
herself on a pedestal, right? So what if it's the opposite? Like he was mutilating these bodies and was doing it in a way that was like a torture is kind of way. You know what I'm saying? Like they didn't deserve, or do you think it's more of like a worshiper type of deal? It's like you
I mean,
can't get your mom back, so like why would you do it to other women? Like why would you want to wear other women in place of your mom when she was
yeah.
constantly always talking badly about other women?
Yeah. Or if maybe he, like, it goes along with what you're saying and he was mad at his mom
Yeah.
because of everything he went through and what she did to him as a child, and he never got to have a relationship like that with somebody else, or a woman, when she was alive. And so it's almost like you never get that closure where you're like, haha, I'm in a relationship, mom, and I'm successful, or whatever the case is. And then that anger builds up because you hear about like serial killers that go out and they kill people that remind them of, or torture people that remind them of the person that they originally wanted to go after, whether they are still alive or they're dead. So, I mean, I don't know. I feel like there's so many ways that, or things that this could be, but it's very, very hard to determine what it is because it was long ago. And I feel like we don't have a lot of the same mental health things we have nowadays, or understanding of mental health, mental 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 health that we have these days, that it makes it very hard to kind of understand.
Yeah, I mean it could be a whole plethora of things and like I don't know if we'll ever really have like a an like a true answer because like we're not him. We don't know what was going on in his mind. And like there's not enough information even from psychologists, like other than like saying that he was schizophrenic. And like even like the research was like um there was like some um cop that said that when they went back and like asked about like one of the murders, they said that they had a feeling that the even like something that happened with the brother's death, they felt like it was a Cain and Abel situation between the brother. um yeah, super freaking interesting, because if you look at it that way,
Wow.
Cain and Abel, if like anything about that, is
I know
you
what
know
Lucifer told me.
I know at least the first told me. Well, I know from I know from both standpoints, because like I know from the Bible and then also Lucifer the show, but like Cain and Abel, I mean, it wasn't a good relationship, but I thought that was interesting
That's good. So
because
was he jealous of him, or what was the like just the
I
short
think,
situation?
to be honest with you, I think he wanted his mom all to himself because of his weird relationship with his mother. He wanted his mom all to himself. Like he really,
Huh.
like that weird statement about how he, like his mom was his one true love or whatever, which is super freaking weird to say about your mom. Like his only
That's very
friend
weird.
and one true love, and like now he is alone in the world. So I mean, I've been there,
Can you like flip the script a little bit and kind of think like put it from the perspective like from a girl. If a girl said, "My dad was my one true love," wouldn't you be like, "Excuse me, miss, what happened to you?
Right.
Are
That
you
sounds like
are
daddy
you
issues. Yeah. No, he definitely
what
100%.
what did that man do to you?"
Right. That definitely sounds like his mommy issues were bigger than they were astronomical for sure. I mean, we know
That's
this.
crazy.
Like even the
Well,
brother knew this and would make comments about it, and he got mad about it. That's why I think he's dead. That's why he died. That's why there was foul play that was in question. Super weird in my opinion. They didn't do that brother justice, but
hmm.
that's my opinion.
There's so
But
many cases like that from back in the
yeah.
day when it's like, how? There's no way. But yeah, they, of course, ruled it as accidental or what's the terminology when it's like natural causes.
Natural
So
causes, yeah.
accidental or natural causes or whatever the case is. But I don't think there's anything natural about that. That's very odd. And also, even if like nowadays, even if it's natural causes or accidental, they look into the person's whole life and everything leading up to it. So they would have looked into what did the brothers say, what
Mm-hmm.
happened, what was the situation around everything or around everyone. And so maybe they would have been able to understand that the brother said weird things about
Mm-hmm.
Ed having a weird relationship with his mom or saying weird things about his mom or vice versa. And then nowadays we would have been like, something weird's going on there. That needs to be looked into more. And then poor, what, Henry is his name?
Henry, yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah, I
just
think
nobody
like
even knows.
even with today's technology, unfortunately, I think that like um the system fails a lot of people. And I'm gonna
I
leave
agree.
that there. So
I know.
just
You're not alone. I 100% agree. And you can't be a person who does like what we do
mm-hmm.
or looks into the things that we do around crime and true crime and not think that there's a what is it, like a broken link
Mm-hmm.
in the whole
100%.
system.
In the
And the
entire
link is
system.
yeah, and the broken links in different places, in different counties, different cities, different states. Stakes? Wow. States. Apparently I'm hungry. But in different states where it's like there's and we fail, there's a lot of broken links and we fail a lot of people, and it's very, very sad. But one thing to remember is that we're human. Mm-hmm. And we have humans doing these jobs. I mean, I know I've forgotten to turn something in like on a deadline when I was working, and it's like, I mean, if these people forget to do something or file something, they like wreck like the whole system. It's very sad. It's very sad. But I don't know. He's still crazy. There's no doubt about that at all. But how crazy, I think, is where people can disagree. Insanity or just crazy and knew what he wanted.
I think it's definitely kind of one of those situations where it's like kind of a toss of a coin. It's like, let's see,
what sticks,
what we're gonna get today. Is it heads or tails? But it's, I don't know. I thought this was interesting nonetheless because, these are real life people that are inspiring our movies or our books or our things. And it's crazy because like these are the things that we watch, we read, we don't really think about to be true stories because we don't get the information or we don't research it. And so that's why we're here to like do the research and tell everybody these fun, creepy stories, or like just share the fun information that like some people just don't even want to dig into, which is totally cool because I love this stuff personally.
Yeah.
I was totally flabbergasted.
I didn't even know. I know a lot about anything true crime, and I didn't even know. Like, I knew from the get-go. I think we had this conversation before you did this episode where I was like, oh, it's based on a true story. I know that, but I didn't know like this. Like, I thought there's some psycho running around with a chainsaw cutting people up, and it's not even close.
No,
not even close.
Nope. But yeah, so that's the story of Ed Gein and his reign of terror.
Wow. Well, yeah. I agree with what you said. I think that there's a lot more that we can unpack in like the whole psychology behind all of it, that I think there's a lot more that we can dissect, thing by thing, or what effects this could have had on him when he was younger, older, whatever. So I agree with doing that, maybe doing another episode talking about that for people who want to listen to that whole psychology aspect.
Yeah, I like, that's right up my alley. I love like the psychology stuff. I like how the brain works and how people tick, and that's my thing. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, wow. Oof. That's like, it's almost like you need to, like, after something like that, you're like, okay, now it's time to watch a cartoon.
You're like, I need a beer.
Pikachu. I know, I need a beer. I need a beer, and I'm gonna watch Detective Pikachu.
Yeah, that's so funny.
I love that movie.
That's a good movie.
It's my Pikachu.
Aww.
It's Colton's Pikachu. I stole it.
So cute.
But yeah, wow. Oof. Wow. That was a lot.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
I know.
It's like heavy.
It is heavy.
Anything else?
No. That's it. That's it.
That's it. All right. Well, that sounds great.
That's how the cookie crumbles.
That's how the cookie crumbles. All right.
So that was the story of Ed Gein and his reign of terror, and how it was loosely based off of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and how it probably would have been a lot scarier if we would have seen the actual truth behind it. So that's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Perfect. That was awesome.